Greetings. I am Barbara J. Faison, your meditation ambassador, and I'm here today with Lynayn Mielke. And I'm excited to have this conversation about meditation because Lynayn is, get this, is so many things. Let me just make sure I have it. She's an energy practitioner and intuitive. She has a BS in biological psychology and a master's in acupuncture. Lynayn is also a member of the Specialty Tea Institute. I did not know that even existed, so I learned something new, and I love learning new things.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, so we're going to chat today about meditation, the journey, how she's gotten into meditation, how long she's been doing it, and all the usual questions, and then other stuff. So welcome, Lynayn. It's so good to see you because we've connected on Clubhouse.
Yes, it's nice to see you too. And thank you very much for having me. And thank you very much for your inspired action of creating these meditation conversations because they're really interesting. I encourage everybody to go back and watch any of the ones that you've missed. And it's just something that I feel we need to talk about more. We need to say, yes, I meditate, or yes, I'd like to meditate and I need some support in that. And this is a perfect opportunity for people to learn how to do just that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So do you all hear that? And that is my intention, is to just share people across all walks of life, people who are practitioners, people who just picked it up because someone drugged them to a session. Constantina, her sister, drug her to a yoga session, and and I listened back on that, and it's just so interesting to hear people and how they got involved. So how did you start meditating? How did you get involved in meditation?
Well, it's funny that you asked this because it allowed me to kind of think back, and it's a very pleasant memories for me. But when I was a very little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, my father was a meditator, and he would go down into the family room. We had a split foyer house, and he would go down into the family room area, and he would meditate. And I'm an only child and had very close relationship with both of my parents. So when my father was home, but I didn't have access to him, this was, challenging for me. So I was always told, Lynayn, don't go downstairs. Your father's meditating. And so I would wait till my mom went someplace else, and then I'd sneak down and sit on the top of the steps that led down to the basement. And then slowly I would squat down one step, till I was at the bottom. And then I thought I would wait. And then if I thought I could get away with it, I would peer around the corner because I really wanted to see what he was doing. And the first couple of times I saw him, and I yelled up, "He's just sleeping down here." So this was my first introduction to meditation, and it piqued my curiosity in it from a very young age. And my father was a recovering meditator, a meditator, like we all are. We all have, I always feel like there's no meditation teachers versus meditators. We're all one. And then it's a constant struggle and practice for all of us to keep up our practice. And so I watched my father do that throughout his life, and became interested in sort of the spirituality component associated with meditation. And that's kind of where it started. And I have a very long history of where I got to the type of meditation that I primarily do now also, but that's where it started.
Wow. And it's funny you say that because my father, and he's been gone for a while now. I remember he would say he was meditating, and I used to say the same thing. You're just sleeping. And he probably was. I didn't have a clue what meditation was. And then when I look back and I look at some of the books he had Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he was a librarian, so he was very well read. And I think back and go, my father probably was meditating, and I'm just saying he was sleeping, but he'd be there and his eyes would be closed. I'm like, Daddy, you're sleeping. You're not meditating. So it's funny. I imagine there are a lot of people that have that story, of watching their parents do this thing that we didn't know what it was, and then we called it something else. That is
right.
That is so fascinating. So what is your practice now? I know you've had a journey to get there, but you mentioned what do you currently do as a practice now?
Currently my focus is on my tea practice as a form of meditation.
Got it.
And I like to call it meditation.
Oh, I like it. I think you might want to trademark that.
I like to feel I was very clever about that, but I'm sure someone else has already said it. But I like it because it allows me, the way that I do it, it allows me to have my silence. And then it allows me, if I want to, when I'm doing a longer session, to then, and the silence is important, not just from the silence. I don't think we have enough silence. And I think when we do get silence, like we did experience during pandemic, we don't or can't handle it.
Yeah.
Because it forces us to do one thing that I don't feel culturally we're taught or supported in doing, which is having a relationship with ourselves, being able to be with ourselves. And it always amuses me when people say, oh, I was alone. Well, you actually were with yourself, which is a whole full-fledged being, but we don't cultivate that relationship. So for me, the beginning part of my tea practice is about getting quiet, allowing that silence in, experiencing the uncomfortableness that may bring of having to quiet and still myself, and then allowing that time to be with me and cultivating my relationship with self. Then as I go on, I will do a reinfusion, and I then start to ask for guidance, connect with my intuition. One of the things that silence allows, which we don't utilize enough, is this is our time to get information, to connect with our intuition. So many people that I work with, clients, will say, oh, I'm not an intuitive. Well, we all are. It's part of being human. And the reason, if you say you don't hear things or you don't feel things or you don't know things, you simply haven't sat down and been quiet long enough for your higher self, your body, a combination of all of that to communicate with you. It's waiting. But if we don't give it an opportunity, and then also intuition's like a muscle. If we don't use it, we lose it. So this tea meditation as a practice is an unbelievable way to cultivate that intuition. If you've fallen away from it or you don't feel connected, here's the chance to do that. I also will work with particular intentions. And when I get to a certain part of my meditation, I will utilize my intention in part of the practice so that will actually energetically infuse my tea with my intention, and then think about that as I'm drinking it and allow that experience to really affect me on a complete body, mind, spirit level. Yeah. Tea is unique in that, because when you are drinking it in, the physiology of the leaf is transforming your body no matter what. And I have an acupuncture patient who came one time and said, well, I don't believe in any of this, so it's not going to work. And I had to laugh, and I said, well, it doesn't matter whether you believe in it or not. The experience might not be as the same as this for someone who's here like, ooh, I'm getting acupuncture. But the needles do what they do, and the tea does what it does. So we can't help but be transformed, transmuted by drinking in the tea. So that's what makes this type of meditation, in my opinion, a little bit different and a little bit sort of like on steroids. It's got a lot more to give, and it can be the only way that you meditate, but it's also something to have as an addition, a support to other forms of meditation. So, and you can, set up certain times in your schedule when you know you're going to do a tea meditation. I do my tea meditation daily. And sometimes if I'm lucky, I get to do it twice a day. And during pandemic, I did it a lot.
We talked about that. Yeah.
Right. And that's why I feel really confident when I say to people, if you take this on, if you start this practice, if you let your curiosity rule and you begin to use this in your life, I can guarantee you, you will see a shift.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and I will say this, it's also like any other form of meditation. When you are doing it by yourself, there's lots of tea meditations where you go with a group of people and you engage having tea
Yeah.
together in silence, which is amazing. Your friend performs those
Mhm.
ceremonies that we were
Mhm.
talking about, and I have done those as well. But this is when you're just by yourself. You are going to probably experience some things that one or two times you're going to say, well, I'm not really interested in thinking about that or feeling that, or
I'd rather not.
I hard putting that over there, and I
Yeah.
don't want it to come out. But as an energy practitioner, the beautiful thing about this is nothing, we must release.
Mhm.
If we
Mhm.
must release to be well and to be full and to be whole. So
Yes.
this is a beautiful way of accomplishing that and still adding all kinds of beauty to our day, adding all kinds of other benefits through this practice, because tea is such a beautiful plant, and it's a really an amazing addition to this planet. I feel very lucky that we found it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been, I mean,
Wow.
used for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
The West are slow catching on to it,
Mhm.
and that's okay. You know, it's here now, and that's great.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me, give me, and it's, I try not to say one thing because for me it's challenging for me to say one favorite anything. What are your top 3 teas?
Oh, well, I'm an oolong girl,
Okay.
and so my absolute favorite Oriental Beauty
Okay.
is a Taiwanese oolong that is very near and dear to my heart. And I feel very fortunate that I was able to be in Taiwan and see its cultivation and
Ooh.
be that close to the plant. That's really one of my absolute favorites. I also really enjoy uh, Sri Lankan or Ceylon black teas, and that's actually what I'm drinking today.
You must show your beautiful mug.
I have a Ceylon BOP in my cup right now, and because it has a little bit of extra oomph, and I wanted that um, today. And then I absolutely also adore pu'ers, which are aged black teas,
Mhm.
and they have a tremendous amount of health. Well, all tea does, but
Mhm.
pu'ers are particularly acknowledged for having wellness qualities to them.
Ooh.
One of the things that I'm always pointing out to people is that all tea is good for you. Certain teas garner more press, and so people know more about or aware more of green tea because
Mhm.
people write about it. Um, all teas have wellness profiles. They just have different levels of antioxidants depending upon which tea it is. And
Mhm.
so that then helps us as practitioners of tea, if we're using it in sort of a prescriptive way, we can then say, oh, you have these 3 issues. This tea is better suited to you because its antioxidant profile addresses those issues.
Mm.
When I work with people, I always create what I like to call a wardrobe of tea. You wouldn't put the same jacket on every single day that you left the house. The same tea every single day might not be appropriate either. So I like to help
Mm.
people create
I
that
like
wardrobe.
that. I like that. Yeah. I like that. So we were chatting before, and you mentioned something about the as one of my meditators calls it, the plandemic, where we had a
Right,
lot of opportunity to plan. So
right.
what did you find? Did anything in your practice change during the pandemic, or what happened for you during the plan? I know I was highly meditated during that time. I was meditating a
Well,
lot.
it was an interesting. observing yourself when that happens. I'm self-employed, so I had three very important large events that were all scheduled a week after we went into shutdown. So that took a bit, and I was really much like a fish out of water, flapping around trying to think about, and I was doing this back and forth of, it's going to be fine, and okay, I got to get on the ball here, because this is I very much felt like there was a steamrolling machine behind me, and I kept looking back and I'm like, okay, I can't slow down, because then it's gonna roll right over me. But as I continue to remind myself to do my practice and sit with that anxiety and whatnot that comes up, I mean, there were days that I got up and I was like, well, that was useless. But the point is the ritual of it and the consistency of it. Your body knows that you sat and did that. You might up here not have thought that was a
right,
but your body on a cellular level knows. And sure enough, as I added in a few more self-care things, some essential oils, that I use regularly, but was really doing the, amped up version of, I began to settle in and realized that I had been limiting myself a little bit in my practice, in that I had the mindset, which I think happens to a lot of meditators. Oh, I meditate. I'm meditating. I'm a meditator. I know this. I know what's going on. Yes, I sit. Oh yeah, I feel much more relaxed. And then you move on. And I had realized that I had begun glossing over slightly the fullness of the experience, that my curiosity of what could happen during that moment had just fallen off a little bit. And so, and that was also, that happened right after Lunar New Year, which is always a busy time for me as an acupuncturist and a tea merchant, because I think I did, I don't know, 15 Lunar New Year as events. So I was kind of tired anyway. And so that really showed me that, oh, you are not phoning it in, but I was not as open or as curious as I could have been. And so I took that opportunity in pandemic to cultivate my beginner's mind again. And just open to whatever it needed to show up. And I also refined how I did my tea practice, with particularly the connecting to your intuition and being open to thoughts, and refined that into now one of the services I provide in my Well-Infused Life program. And that is how to then get that information and then utilize it, how to put it into practice, because we all will get little hits or little nuances, but whether or not we have the confidence and the trust in ourselves to then act on it is a completely different story. So I did create that during pandemic because I needed to do it myself. It was, test by fire. Okay. And I keep a journal, and what I find encouraging clients to do, when things come up and you write them down, it's nice to go back and review. If there are common themes are coming up, are you addressing those? What are you doing with that information? So that's largely, and watching a lot of Netflix and creating a lot of like really amazing macaroni and cheese dishes, the same thing everybody did during pandemic. I feel better after meditation, but I'd feel really good if I ate some macaroni and cheese. So
yes. Although I did not, I'm not a big mac and cheese girl. And I think it's just because I didn't grow up eating a lot of it. But I do enjoy it. That I really want to find out a little bit more about the services you offer, because I think they sound really interesting. And for anyone that may be do you do things virtually or just in person?
Oh no, I'm virtual.
Okay. And tell the audience where you're located physically in case someone does want to come in.
Well, I'm in Annapolis, Maryland. In my wellness practice studio is called Thrive. And my business is called the Well-Infused Life. That's my website, the Well-Infused Life.com. And there, and that's an intended pun on tea. I do have a retail tea business in my wellness practice. I always have. And I'm working on or figuring out, I always had the East West Tea Emporium. That was something that I did with my mother. I will always have that near and dear to my heart. But most of my teas now are being labeled under the Well-Infused Life. And I will be keeping a certain select of unflavored, pure Chinese, Japanese, Taiwanese teas under that particular label. And most of my wellness blends and my blends that I work with, infusing them with particular energetic qualities, they'll all be under the Well-Infused Life. The first thing that I always love to tell people about is the easiest and the quickest way to kind of begin your journey on the Well-Infused Life, which is I have a meditation program that you can do, and that consists of meeting with me, Zoom, 2 times. And the first time we meet, we basically take a look at what your goals are, and that can be mental, spiritual, physical, all of that, what you'd like to accomplish, how to incorporate this practice into your life, how to get started with that. And then I will create a custom blend for you based on what you'd like to address. We work on creating the intention that you want to use with the tea. I infuse that intention into your tea. I package that up. I send it to you. And when you receive it, we meet again and we begin your tea practice. I begin showing you how to use that, how to work with the intention that you've created with your tea infusion, and how you go forward incorporating that in your day. I have a smaller version of that, which is just called First Infusion Primer. And that is one Zoom meeting where we talk about basically anything that you want. It can be, how do I brew tea, to I'd like to start a meditation practice with tea, and anything in between. So that's just, you get me, solid me, one-on-one drinking tea, figuring out how you can incorporate that into your life. Okay. I also have a one-on-one Well-Infused Life mentorship program. That's an 8-week program where I work with you to, it's really as a mentor or a guide, creating your own well-infused life, teaching you the principles of what I feel a well-infused life is and how to start your journey with that. And I have VIP days. And then I also have my acupuncture practice, which right now is currently full, but I do have a wait list for that.
Okay. Those are wonderful ways to connect with you. And I love tell me a little bit about the length of time, because I know it may vary when you're doing your practice, right? When you're doing your tea and setting your intentions. What's the range of time that you spend when you do that?
So this is where it makes me a little bit of a rebel, in that sometimes, if we're being honest, we do not have time to pull out the whole tea table and do all of that. And so I say, and I'm going to say the word tea bag, but I had asked me tea bag the other day, and she said, oh, I was traveling and I had 15 minutes before I got on my train and I really wanted a tea, and I left my things at home and I went over, and she said, what if I wanted to just take a moment with that? And I thought, well, you can. It's stopping and getting present and being quiet. Using the senses that you use if you were doing a full-blown tea meditation for yourself. You feel the warmth of the cup on your hands. You smell the aroma of the tea. You take a sip and you feel it going down your throat. All of those things. That can take 2 minutes. And you are more set from a place of stability than you were before. When I do it on a daily basis, it's the first thing I really do when I get up in the morning. And that is a little bit more of a full-blown ritual. But I also learned over pandemic as well that that can feel restrictive to me too. And so I thought, okay, let's practice not doing it exactly the perfect way.
Yeah.
And it is something that I encourage people, because that keeps you doing it on a daily basis. And that's actually, in my opinion, the most important thing, particularly during times of stress. Ritual creates security. There's a reason why cultures incorporate ritual in mostly spiritual activities. It was to create stability and a feeling of safety. And you can do that for yourself, which again, very important about cultivating that relationship with self, knowing that you have an inner strength, knowing that your safety comes from you internally, not externally. Tea is brilliant at teaching us that. So I always encourage people, even if it can't be perfect, whatever that means to you, still do it.
Yeah.
And make a commitment to yourself that you will refine, that you will learn, that you always change. But having a tea practice is something that is like a living thing. It's living, breathing, and some days it's perfect, and some days it just gets done.
Yeah. Well, and that is the nature of life, you know, depending upon what we have going on. And yours is similar to mine in my slice of silence. You know, I say
Right.
sometimes you get a sliver, you know, and sometimes that sliver is 5 minutes while you're in the bathroom. You take it, and you take that time and you get silent. And sometimes you can spend an hour out in nature, do whatever it is to get your silence. So it really is about, like you said, the body has a memory, the body keeps score, and your body knows that you're doing this. And it is the ritualness of this, the ritualization of it. It is also the recognizing, and as you mentioned earlier, reflecting back on these different things. You know, I call them God winks. When something pops up, it's like, oh, you know, you write that down, or you take inspired action. Much of mine now, my intuition is just kind of finding myself flowing. I find myself in flow a whole lot more than saying, oh, my intuition hit me and I've decided to blah, blah, blah. I just flow. And then I look up and I've done something that I had in my mind to do that I didn't necessarily want to do, but I did it anyway, you know? So
I
yeah,
had
that's lovely.
That we're working cultivating her intuition, and she mentioned that, well, this and this will happen, but you know, those are just random acts. And I said, there's nothing random going on here.
Not at all. Yeah.
That's and for her, we discovered that was the shift that needed to happen. And so then when we're then seeing that those aren't random, and we are able to cultivate that trust of, oh, okay, yes, that did come through. And tea, it's interesting. The whole practice of brewing and watching the brewing, it's referred to as the agony of the leaf. It's very connected to, in my opinion, what it is like to be alive. And basically, in the agony of the leaf, I actually have some right here because I just did a tea video the other day. But you know, this is some rolled oolong, and it's closed, and it's beautiful to look at and smell. But the truth of them is that's not in its fullness. And then when we put water on here, that impact of the water, boom, changes the leaf. And isn't that life? Like, pandemic was the ultimate infusion. Exactly. Oh, you think you're doing this tomorrow? No, the country is shut down.
Yeah.
And we immediately, whether we wanted to or not, began to shift. And tea reminds us that when we see that, oh, that's a struggle. Wow, that must, you know, boiling water. Wow, that must not, but the leaf opens in this most magnificent way, and it produces this liquor that is just delicious to drink and beautiful to look at with an amazing aroma. And so that reminds us that, yes, things may be difficult today, but at the end, look at this beautiful thing that we get.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, seeing that on a daily basis really instills a feeling of safety and a feeling of, yes, this is happening. I mean, because how many of us don't every now and then say, well, is everybody else's life like this? Is everyone else experience? Is it just me?
Yeah.
I mean, and no, it isn't just you, it's everyone.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of my connectedness to the earth, connectedness to all the other people. And that is essential, particularly for anybody, particularly women who I work with a majority of, anxiety, stress,
Mhm.
those kinds of, it really helps bring that in and gives us a place to land and be grounded.
Absolutely. That well said. A well-infused life and well said.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking with me. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience before we head out and close this conversation about meditation?
Well, I'm always happy to talk to anyone about tea and meditation. So you can contact me through my website, which is the Well-Infused Life, one
Mhm.
word.com. You can email me at the wellinfusedlife@gmail.com. I also would like to let people know, if they're interested, on Sunday, I am doing a live tea ceremony event at the Virtual Speakers Success Summit. And
Mm.
that's, you can register for free if you'd like. And it's virtualspeakersuccess.com. And it'll be Sunday at 3 o'clock if people are interested in seeing that. But I really invite anybody, if our conversation has piqued your curiosity at all, please reach out, and I'm happy to have a conversation or just spend a little time with you, getting you started or answering some questions, because I really feel uh, you'll benefit from it. And I like to help people with that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. We have
Thank
been
you.
in conversation with Lynayn Mielke, who is a certified energy practitioner or certified intuitive and all of these wonderful things. And she is a tea connoisseur and, let me get it right, certified tea specialist.
Yes.
So feel free to reach out to Lynayn with all of the information she shared. All of that will be also noted in our description. I'm so grateful you had a chance to chat with
Thank you.
me, and I learned so much about tea. So thank you so much for joining us. And if you are interested in being in the seat where Lynayn is, I would love to chat with you about your meditation practice, because it's just practice. As Lynayn mentioned earlier, we are guiding each other. If we are hosting, I'm just hosting and guiding. And I am always learning every single moment of every practice I do. So I would love to chat with you. Thank you for tuning in to this version or episode of the Conversations about Meditation. Be well.